So I bought a Harley-Davidson after 30 years off motorcycles, and people had some thoughts about it. They'd say things like, you could die on that thing, right? And yeah, I know. My name's Rob. I'm in my 50s and I took a 30-year break from motorcycles, and I bought a Harley-Davidson. And you know what? They're not wrong. You can absolutely die on a motorcycle. But after 30 years off bikes, I came back thinking about a different kind of risk. That's what this video is about. You see, when I was younger, I lived in a small town where you could ride anywhere without too much of a second thought. And then I moved to Sydney, Australia in the early 2000s. And honestly, the idea of riding in heavy traffic scared me off. And I sold that bike and told myself it made a lot of sense. And then life did the rest, kids, mortgage, work, and 30 years all of a sudden has gone by. When I got back on a bike a year ago, I wasn't blind to the dangers. I knew the risks were real, but I just spent 3 decades watching the world get more cautious, more padded, and more careful. And the thing is, I'd become part of that world. So buying a Harley-Davidson Heritage after not riding for 30 years, that wasn't an accident. That was a conscious decision I made. And part of that decision was accepting what came with it. So let's cut the BS. Motorcycles are more dangerous than cars. That's just the truth of it. You've got no cage around you, you're harder to see, and when something goes wrong, it goes wrong fast, and generally it's not going to go in your favour. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the gear is going to save you, or that if you just take enough courses you'll be fine, because sometimes things are out of your control and you just might not be able to do anything about it as much as you think you can. And some of the best riders in the world have been hurt riding on the street, and that's just the reality. And being in my 50s, I'm not the same as I was at 25. My reaction time isn't what it was, and I know that too. So yeah, when someone says you could die on that thing, they've got a point. But here's the thing everyone seems to forget. I spent 30 years being sensible, and at the end of it, I looked up and realised I'd been slowly disappearing. Not in a dramatic way, just the edges getting softer. Fewer risks, fewer things that made my heart beat faster, fewer moments where I felt properly and completely alive. And that's the insidious thing about playing it safe. It doesn't feel like a choice, it just feels like life. We're all going to die. That's not a motorcycling thing, that's just the reality. The question isn't whether you can avoid it. You can't. The question is, what do you do with the time before that day comes? And I'd rather take the risk than go back to that. The most dangerous thing about motorcycles isn't the statistics. It's the fact that getting on one forces you to ask the question most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Are you actually living, or are you just not dying yet? So tell me in the comments, what's the thing you'd do if fear wasn't making the call? Now, I'm not saying everyone should ride a motorcycle. That's not the point. The point is that fear is a terrible reason to stop doing something. Fear dressed up as common sense, fear dressed up as responsibility, it's all still fear. And I spent 30 years being sensible, and at the end of it, I looked up and realised I'd been slowly disappearing. The bike didn't bring me back. The decision to stop letting fear make my choices did. The bike's just where I felt it most. So the next time someone tells you that you could die doing something you love, yeah, you could. The real question is, what are you risking by not doing it? So that's where I'll land on this. I'm not here to tell anyone how to live. I'm just a bloke who got back on a bike after 30 years and realised what he's been missing.